So Rachel, if I'm an American thinking about making gifts, what are the sorts of things that I need to consider?
I think the first thing to think about is that planning that you've put in place that works for US rules may not necessarily apply in other jurisdictions. That said, the US has some very generous annual exclusion amounts, and that's currently at $17,000 per person annually. And you can make those gifts to children, siblings, even in fact, friends.
Okay, great. So if I'm a UK domiciled American, I could use that perhaps in conjunction with our surplus income gifting rules. What if I wanted to make a much larger gift?
Once again, the US has a very kind of generous system called a lifetime exclusion, and that covers to gifts and transfers made during life and at death, and that's currently sitting at just under $13 million per person.
Right, so way bigger than our UK exemption of 325,000. So again, if I'm UK domiciled, I really need to be thinking about the UK side as well as the US side.
Indeed, and what I would say that whilst the exemptions may be higher, it's very important to file a gift tax return because that, even if the gifts aren't taxable, but they would be reportable, and that starts the statute of limitation running on those gifts. Because often when transfers happen, the issues tend to come to light many years down the line upon somebody's death.
And what if I'm not quite ready to give up all of the control in making these gifts?
In that case, you might want to consider using a trust. So trust can be useful for a planning tool, for example, where you have minor children, or for example, somebody with special needs who's not able to take control of assets on independently, or particularly as well in the case of complex family situations.
And is there a spouse exemption in the US rules?
There is, but what the US the good rule of thumb is that the US really wants to keep assets within the US tax net. So transfers between US citizen spouses can be unlimited, both during life and at death. But where you have a non-US citizen spouse, and that would include a US green card holder, the US is going to look to tax that more punitively. That would also apply to transfers between US green card holder spouses. So pay particular attention if you have that situation.
And what if I'm subject to both US estate taxes and UK inheritance tax? Is there a treaty?
There is a treaty in place. It was put in place quite unusually between the US and the UK in 1979, so it's quite old but very much in force, and absolutely should be referred to in the event that you have somebody who dies subject to both jurisdictions or is making transfers during their life.
Sure, so there's some really generous exemptions on the US side, some complexity around that, so we should always just take advice early.
Absolutely, yes. Do not assume that the planning that you've put in place is going to work for both jurisdictions.